In a landmark decision, the Mesa judge announced a pardon for a Lakota youth who had faced serious charges that many believed were unjust. This ruling was significant not only for the young man involved but also for the entire community still grappling with a history of mistreatment. The case began months earlier when the youth was arrested during a protest advocating for Native rights. Many felt that the legal system had been rigged against him, symbolizing a broader struggle for justice faced by indigenous peoples. The judge's decision came as a breath of fresh air amidst growing tensions in the town. It represented a shift from the usual narrative where Native voices were often silenced or ignored. By acknowledging the flaws in the case and recognizing the systemic issues at play, the judge paved the way for healing and reconciliation. This pardon sparked conversations throughout Mesa about racism, justice, and community values. Some residents rejoiced, seeing it as an important step toward acknowledging past wrongs, while others expressed concern over potential unrest. The youth's case had become a focal point, exposing deep divides within the town. As news of the pardon spread, it galvanized many to take action, leading to passionate discussions about equality and rights for all. The community stood at a crossroads, and this decision was just the beginning of what would become a larger movement for change. To understand the significance of the judge's decision, it's essential to look back at the historical injustices faced by the Lakota people. For centuries, they endured broken treaties, forced relocations, and a systematic erasure of their culture and identity. The United States government repeatedly violated agreements made with Native tribes, seizing land that was rightfully theirs and pushing them onto reservations. This loss not only stripped them of their ancestral homes but also disrupted their traditional ways of life. The Lakota experienced waves of discrimination and marginalization that have persisted into modern times. These injustices fostered deep-seated distrust in the legal system, which many Lakota individuals see as stacked against them. Instances of police violence and unfair legal proceedings have left scars on the community, further complicating any attempts at justice. This ongoing struggle for rights has led to numerous protests, including the event that led to the arrest of the youth now pardoned by the Mesa judge. His case symbolizes a larger fight against an unjust system that often overlooks or misinterprets the needs and voices of indigenous peoples. As conversations about racism and inequality continue to grow in the wake of the pardon, it's crucial for both Native and non-Native communities to acknowledge this painful history. Understanding these past injustices is vital for healing and moving forward together toward a more equitable future for all. The community's response to the judge's pardon was a mix of relief, anger, and hope, reflecting the complex emotions surrounding this pivotal moment. Many residents celebrated the decision, viewing it as long-awaited justice for the young Lakota man and a recognition of the struggles faced by indigenous peoples. For some in the community, it felt like a weight had been lifted, symbolizing a step toward healing and reconciliation. However, not everyone shared this joy. A segment of the town expressed anger and disbelief over the ruling, fearing that it might embolden further protests and unrest. These individuals worried that the pardon could lead to a breakdown in law and order, highlighting the divisions within Mesa. Their concerns were amplified by past tensions that had often marred discussions about race and justice. Amid this emotional upheaval, many community members found hope in the possibility that this decision could spark broader conversations about equality. Activists and local leaders began organizing meetings to discuss restoring trust between law enforcement and marginalized groups. The youth's case became a rallying point for those advocating for fairness and change, drawing more people into the movement for justice. As feelings of hope intertwined with frustration, it became clear that this event had ignited a fire in the hearts of many. The community realized they stood at a crucial juncture, with opportunities for dialogue and growth ahead. The collective response began to shape a new narrative for Mesa, one that demanded accountability and justice for all its residents. The Hangman's cart quickly became a powerful symbol during the protests for justice, representing the lingering effects of colonialism and the history of violence against indigenous peoples. Its imagery resonated deeply with community members who saw it as a reminder of past injustices where many Native individuals faced severe consequences for standing up for their rights. The cart, typically associated with punishment and death, captured the collective pain and anger felt by the Lakota and their allies. As protesters rolled the hangman's cart through the streets, they chanted for new justice, transforming a symbol of oppression into one of defiance and hope. It became a rallying point that not only highlighted the injustices faced by the Lakota youth but also served as a call to action against systemic racism. The sight of the cart reminded everyone that true justice had yet to be achieved and that the community must unite to demand change. Furthermore, the hangman's cart embodied the struggle for accountability from local authorities. It represented a refusal to accept a legal system that had too often ignored or marginalized indigenous voices. As activists marched alongside this poignant symbol, it galvanized others in the community, drawing attention to the need for a more equitable judicial process. The hangman's cart thus evolved into an emblem of resilience, highlighting both the community's painful past and their determination to fight for a better future. In this way, it illuminated the urgent need for dialogue and reform within Mesa. As the sun began to set over Mesa, a passionate crowd gathered, determined to make their voices heard. They rolled the hangman's cart through the streets, a powerful symbol of their demand for justice. With each turn of the cart's wheels, chants erupted from the crowd, echoing the urgent call for change. No more silence. No more pain, they shouted, their voices rising in unison as they marched. The atmosphere was electric, filled with a mix of anger and hope. Many carried signs that read, "Justice for all," and "End racial injustice," emphasizing their collective determination to confront systemic issues that had long plagued their community. The rhythmic beating of drums accompanied their chants, adding a sense of unity and resolve to the demonstration. As the mob moved through town, they paused at key locations, like the courthouse and city hall, each time reiterating their demands for accountability and reform. They wanted to ensure that local authorities recognized the pain caused by years of neglect and discrimination against indigenous peoples. Each stop was met with cheers from fellow protesters, reinforcing their solidarity. Some onlookers joined in, inspired by the movement's energy and purpose. Others watched with apprehension, unsure of what this display might mean for the town's future. Yet, amidst mixed feelings, one thing was clear: this demonstration was a pivotal moment in Mesa's history, igniting conversations about justice that could no longer be ignored. As the protest marched on, the voices of the youth in the community became central to the momentum of the movement. Among them was 16-year-old Mia, who explained why she felt compelled to participate. "I'm here because our voices matter," she said, her determination evident. "For too long, we've been overlooked. This is our chance to show that we want change." Another young participant, 14-year-old Leo, shared his thoughts on the significance of the hangman's cart. "It represents all the hurt we've felt because of how people have treated us," he stated emotionally. "But today, it also shows our strength. We are standing together, and we won't back down." Many young people expressed feelings of hope amidst their anger. 17-year-old Tara reflected on how this protest could change their future. "I dream of a world where everyone is treated equally," she said passionately. "Today is just the beginning, we need to keep fighting and asking for justice until it happens." As they marched with banners and chants, these young individuals inspired others around them. Their presence not only highlighted their personal struggles but also connected generations, drawing older protesters into discussions about education and empowerment for future leaders. The energy from the youth brought a sense of urgency to the crowd. They reminded everyone that changing the narrative around justice isn't just about adults advocating for their rights but also about inspiring young voices ready to shape a better tomorrow. Together, they envisioned a future where their rights were respected and valued. As the protests escalated, local law enforcement found themselves in a challenging position. Officers were deployed to maintain order during the demonstrations, aware of the heightened emotions surrounding the pardon of the Lakota youth. The presence of the hangman's cart and the passionate crowd posed a significant test for their approach to community policing. Initially, law enforcement maintained a cautious distance, observing the protest while allowing participants to express their grievances. However, as tensions rose, some officers felt compelled to step in, concerned about potential violence or property damage. Their decision to remain visible but not confrontational aimed to prevent further escalation and was met with mixed reactions from the crowd. Some protesters appreciated the restraint, while others viewed it as a sign that authorities were still not fully supportive of their quest for justice. As chants echoed through the streets, officers attempted to engage with community leaders, hoping to facilitate dialogue. Many in law enforcement recognized the importance of bridging gaps and restoring trust, especially given the historical context of police interactions with indigenous communities. However, some protesters remained skeptical, recalling past injustices that had left deep wounds. The delicate balance of maintaining public safety while respecting community voices brought many issues to light. This moment represented a critical opportunity for law enforcement to reflect on their role within the community and consider how they could evolve beyond traditional methods of policing to foster meaningful connections and understanding moving forward. In the wake of the pardon and the subsequent protests, calls for change echoed throughout the Mesa community, bringing various groups together in pursuit of justice and reform. Activists, community leaders, and concerned citizens began to form coalitions aimed at addressing systemic issues that had long been ignored. Their demands included reforms in law enforcement practices, improved educational opportunities for indigenous youth, and a renewed commitment to honoring treaties with native tribes. Community forums sprang up, where individuals shared personal stories and experiences of discrimination, highlighting the urgent need for a shift in both perception and policy. Local organizations focused on indigenous rights ramped up their efforts, promoting initiatives that emphasized education about Lakota history and culture. They aimed to foster understanding among non-native residents while empowering young people from indigenous backgrounds to become advocates for their communities. Moreover, discussions around restorative justice gained traction as residents examined how such approaches could help heal historical wounds. Many felt that true reconciliation would require not just acknowledgement of past wrongs but also active commitments to creating equitable pathways for all community members. As these conversations unfolded, the energy from the protests continued to inspire action. The unity displayed during the demonstrations created momentum for ongoing advocacy efforts. Community members began to envision a future where everyone's voice was valued and where systemic injustices would no longer be tolerated. This moment marked the beginning of a transformative journey toward a more inclusive society in Mesa, one where change was not just desired but demanded. The events surrounding the pardon and subsequent protests served as a catalyst for community unity in Mesa, bringing together a diverse array of individuals who might not have otherwise collaborated. People from various backgrounds, including indigenous residents, non-native allies, educators, religious leaders, and civic activists, all converged to support the common cause of justice and equality. This collective movement built bridges between groups that had historically been divided. As protesters rallied behind the symbol of the hangman's cart, conversations began to flow across lines of difference. Neighbors who had rarely interacted found common ground in their desire for change. Many non-native participants expressed a growing awareness of the struggles faced by the Lakota people and recognized their role in advocating for a more equitable society. Community members organized events that encouraged dialogue and education on indigenous rights, fostering a deeper understanding among participants. Potlucks, town hall meetings, and workshops emerged as platforms for sharing personal stories and experiences with discrimination as well as hopes for a better future. Moreover, this newfound solidarity helped empower local youth to take an active role in advocating for justice. The support from various community sectors provided young activists with the encouragement they needed to speak out confidently. As a result, many viewed this moment not merely as a one-time protest but as the beginning of an ongoing commitment to allyship and community healing. In this way, the events catalyzed a shift in Mesa's collective consciousness, illustrating how unity and purpose can transform relationships and foster lasting change within a community committed to justice for all its members. The recent pardon of the Lakota youth and the subsequent protests have marked a pivotal moment not only for the Lakota people but also for other marginalized groups within the Mesa community. This event sparked a powerful movement that has the potential to reshape perceptions of justice and equality in the region. As conversations about systemic racism and historical injustices unfold, the community is now more aware of the necessity for change. This moment signifies more than just a single act of justice, it embodies a collective awakening. The unity displayed during the protests demonstrates how various community members, previously isolated by differences, can come together to advocate for shared values. The collaboration between indigenous residents and their allies signifies a path toward greater understanding and respect, highlighting that the fight for justice is an inclusive effort applicable to all. Looking forward, this newfound solidarity may lead to significant changes in local policies and practices aimed at addressing issues such as law enforcement reform, educational disparities, and cultural recognition. The commitment to continue advocating for indigenous rights and equity reveals a hopeful trajectory where systemic injustices are confronted rather than ignored. Moreover, as young activists emerge from this experience, they will undoubtedly drive ongoing efforts for change, instilling a sense of empowerment in future generations. Ultimately, this moment serves as both a turning point and a foundation for lasting reform, ushering in an era where justice is no longer seen as a distant goal but as an achievable reality for all members of the Mesa community.